Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense and our new segment, Hemp News. We're going on 23 and a half years of producing this show, and we can't let a little thing like a pandemic slow us down. So I think this is our sixth stay-at-home pandemic edition. We're doing just like all these other folks, but I have interesting hemp news for you this week. Out of Washington, D.C., House leadership unveiled legislation this week, the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, aka the HEROES Act, to provide additional economic resources and support in response to the global COVID-19 pandemic. Included in the language of the bill is H.R. 1595, the Safe Banking Act, which amends federal law so that explicitly banks and other financial institutions may work directly with state legal marijuana businesses. So far, banks have been unable to work with marijuana businesses except for a few small credit unions. There are a few small credit unions that charge a $500 application fee and a $500 a month bank fee to handle marijuana business accounts, but most banks won't cover it. In fact, personally, I have had my bank accounts closed 20 different times, as recently as just 3 months ago. But members of the United States House of Representatives voted 321 to 103 in favor of the act in September, the Safe Banking Act. The Congress should include separate provisions in the act to permit state licensed cannabis businesses be eligible to receive loans and other types of financial assistance via the Small Business Administration, or SBA. The state licensed cannabis industry employs more than 240,000 American workers, over 4 times the number of American workers as does the coal industry. The majority of these businesses are small to medium in size. Over 40 members of Congress signed multiple letters to congressional leadership demanding SBA reform. Portland, Oregon's own Representative Earl Blumenauer has introduced legislation to address this matter. Nonetheless, language to amend SBA eligibility was not included in the bill. The inclusion of the Safe Banking Act in the CARES 2 package is a positive development, but one that's akin to applying a Band-Aid to a gaping wound. In the majority of states, these cannabis businesses have been deemed essential during this pandemic, but at a federal level, they're being cast aside by Congress. Those small cannabis businesses facing tough economic times are essentially being told by Congress to shutter their doors and fire their employees. While larger, better capitalized players may be able to weather this storm, smaller cannabis businesses may not be able to do so absent some economic stimulus. By continuing to deny these small businesses eligibility to SBA assistance, it's possible that we could see an acceleration of the corporatization of the cannabis industry in a manner that's inconsistent with the values and desires of many within the cannabis space. In the majority of jurisdictions that regulate cannabis marketplaces, lawmakers in recent weeks have designated these operations to be essential to the health and well-being of the community. In other, regulators have either relaxed protocols or moved forward with new emergency rules to facilitate expanded access, such as permitting patients to seek telemedicine appointments and allowing dispensaries to permit curbside pickup and home delivery. A separate reform provision included in the package is Section 9009, which requires that the SBA not discriminate against applicants solely because of involvement in the criminal justice system. This development will help individuals who have suffered under the lasting legacy of marijuana criminalization and will ensure that they no longer face undue economic discrimination when it comes to being eligible for SBA assistance. Under the SBA's current rules, individuals are automatically disqualified from receiving aid if they've been convicted, pled guilty, or nolo contendere, placed on pretrial diversion, or placed on parole or probation in the last 5 years. Here in Oregon, 2 progressive drug policy campaigns in Oregon one to legalize medicinal psilocybin mushrooms and the other to decriminalize all illegal drugs, have partnered up to help each other collect signatures during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Both campaigns shipped email blasts to their supporters plugging the other campaign's petition. Both campaigns were in reach of the signature requirement to qualify for Oregon's ballot before the state's coronavirus response shutdown. The campaigns each need 112,020 valid signatures by July 2nd to qualify for the November election. In Maryland, Republican Governor Larry Hogan has vetoed legislation, House Bill 83, which sought to prohibit the Maryland judiciary case search from any way referring to the existence of a certain case in which possession of marijuana is the only charge in which the case and the charge was disposed. The database provides public access to case records of the Maryland judiciary. The legislation, if enacted, would have shielded an estimated 200,000 low-level marijuana convictions from public view. In a prepared statement, the governor acknowledged that he was vetoing HB 83, along with several other criminal justice reform measures, because House lawmakers failed to pass a separate bill, the Violent Firearms Offenders Act of 2020. An initial drafted and passed by Maryland's House, HB 83 sought to review and automatically expunge past low-level marijuana convictions. State law currently allows those previously convicted of a marijuana possession offense to petition the courts to have their criminal records expunged. Maryland lawmakers adjourned the 2020 legislative session nearly 3 weeks early as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our next story is out of Toronto, Canada. Patients who regularly use medical cannabis show little difference in their simulated driving performance following marijuana inhalation, according to data published in the April edition of the Journal of Concurrent Disorders. A team of investigators from the University of Toronto, Health Canada, and the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health assessed the influence of cannabis on simulated driving performance among a group of daily medical cannabis consumers. Participants were asked to refrain from engaging in any cannabis use during the 48 hours immediately prior to the study sessions. 14 subjects completed the study. The subjects performed on a driving simulator prior to and 30 minutes after inhaling cannabis. 3 separate driving scenarios were programmed into the simulator. The subjects decreased their overall mean speed following cannabis consumption. Cannabis smoking did not appear to influence the subjects' ability to maintain lateral control or their brake reaction time. Despite refraining from the use in cannabis in the days leading up to the study, subjects nonetheless possessed residual levels of THC at 4 nanograms per milliliter on average in their blood prior to smoking marijuana during the study sessions. The authors concluded, quote, "The purpose of the present pilot study was to investigate the effects of therapeutic cannabis use on simulated driving. It was found that therapeutic cannabis reduced overall mean speed with no effect on straightaway mean speed, straightaway lateral control, or brake latency," end quote. A prior literature review published in the Journal of the German Medical Association concluded, quote, "Patients who take cannabinoids at a constant dosage over an extensive period of time often develop tolerance to the impairment of psychomotor performance so that they can safely drive motor vehicles," end quote. This study, Effects of Therapeutic Cannabis on Simulated Driving, a pilot study, appears in the April edition of the Journal of Concurrent Disorders. Regulators in the California Department of Food and Agriculture have unveiled their OCal program, which will label organically grown cannabis products in a market scorned by federal regulators. The proposal, which was released last week, would ensure that cannabis products bearing the OCal seal have been certified to consistent uniform standards comparable to the National Organic Program, according to California Department of Farm and Agriculture statements. California regulators also announced they would be accepting public comment on the proposal until July 7th. Notably, certified products will be allowed to display the OCal seal, but still cannot be labeled as organic. The certified organic label found commonly in grocery stores is regulated by the United States Department of Agriculture, which, because it is a federal agency that must obey federal laws, automatically prevents cannabis products from qualifying for the official organic certification. Out of Wellington, New Zealand, voters in New Zealand will decide this September on a national referendum to legalize the possession and use of cannabis by those aged 20 and older. The measure, entitled the Cannabis Legalization and Control Bill, is one of two ballot questions that will be decided alongside the general election in September 19, 2020, there in New Zealand. The binding referendum mandates lawmakers to establish rules and regulations permitting the commercial production and retail sale of cannabis and cannabis-infused products. Those 20 years of age or older would be permitted to purchase up to 14 grams of herbal cannabis per day or grow their own plants at up to 4 plants per household. According to nationwide survey data published in March, 54% of New Zealanders say they intend to vote yes on the marijuana referendum. Under current New Zealand law, the adult use of marijuana is criminalized and punishable by up to 3 months in jail. From Paris, France, the daily administration of synthetic oral THC, or Dronabinol, is associated with improvement in gastrointestinal symptoms in patients with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction, according to a case report published in the Journal of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition. SIPO is a rare pediatric disorder in which intestinal nerves or muscle problems prevent food, fluid, and air from moving through the stomach and intestines. A team of French and Swiss researchers reported on the experience of a 19-year-old female SIPO patient following her twice daily use of Dronabinol capsules over a period of 15 months. The investigators reported that the patient experienced improvements in abdominal pain, distension, and vomiting during her treatment. Her appetite also improved. She reported no major adverse side effects from her use of synthetic THC. Prior to receiving oral THC, the patient had previously reported similar benefits following her use of smoked cannabis. The authors concluded, quote, "This paper reports a fortuitous discovery of positive cannabinoid effects on SIPO symptoms in a patient, leading to significant relief of gastrointestinal complaints. Although further observations are required to consolidate these findings, this case may be helpful for some patients within the same condition." End quote. Full text of the study: cannabinoids improve gastrointestinal symptoms in perinatal nutrition dependent patients with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction. That appears in the Journal of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition. That's the end of our Hemp News segment for tonight. We will be back next week. I believe, again, we will be doing another pandemic edition. We have a number of other video clips, so stay tuned for more cannabis from around the world. Thanks for watching. And restore hemp.
You know, being Seattle Hempfest and being the largest, most sophisticated cannabis policy reform event in the world, we try to make things up to you. You know, we're gonna do a countdown for the 420 here and all that stuff, but you know, I'll tell you, we felt so bad about the fact that Tommy couldn't be here that we decided to do something about it.
You know, there's been this rumor floating around, and I'm gonna address it right now. I gotta tell you people that I decided to quit smoking. And then I realized, hey, I'm not a quitter. Some people. First of all, I want to thank all the vendors. I want to thank the Seattle Hempfest for having me out here. I want to thank all these volunteers who work so hard for no money. A lot of volunteers around here. I want to thank the police for keeping the peace. I want to thank some people who don't get a lot of credit and really deserve it. I want to thank those people walking around here selling magic cookies, brownies. They don't get the credit they deserve. I feel so at home in Seattle, I can't tell you. You guys are definitely the most energized pot smokers I've ever run across. I think it was appropriate to start here in Seattle because it's the home of the place where the young and the young of heart took to the streets and flashed a giant neon sign saying, "We're not putting up with this shit anymore. WTO, go home. Find an island." It's because there's an amazing propaganda machine in this country. Don't you think? I mean, it's a propaganda machine that makes us actually believe that we live in a democracy when we know we don't live in a democracy. I mean, it's a propaganda machine that talks about us living in a free country when we know we're not living in a free country. You're free to do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't go against what the government wants you to do. So how are we going to turn that around? I say things like this: the Seattle Hempfest are the way to turn this thing around. Every one of you people who showed up here today, you're making a statement, and I'm damn proud of you. And you know what I have to say? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think it will change. I think it'll change. Thank you all for coming out here today. I really love my heart.
Say your name with one breath left. Trees are leaves, that's my mom. I like to go fly in the sunshine. Close my eyes and flip the lines. I like to get high in the summertime. Trees are blazing, ease my mind. I like to go fly in the sunshine. You're with my hip-hop fans from Seatown to Flatlands. Get ready to launch. And to love it on the radar.
Give me an H. Give me an E. Give me an M. Give me a P. Your turn. Outdo him. Give me an A. Give me an E. Give me an M. Give me a P. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the house band of Seattle Hempfest, the incredible Herbivores.
Street. I can get on out of town, but this here town's my home. Ain't hurting nobody, so leave my ass alone. 'Cause it's a losing battle, now that the truth is out. Even the politicians have figured this thing out. You can go ahead and inhale press, might help you loosen your tie, and legalize the herb, and drop all the lies. time to exercise our rights and put on a hemp fest. And we'll educate the youth who soon will rule the land. 'Cause it's just a matter of time, and it's time to take a stand. 'Cause it's a losing battle, one that money can't win. Been going on for years, just keeps right on going. Like a Cold War with the commies, prohibition and the like. You can throw us all in prison, but you cannot win the fight. 'Cause it's a losing battle.
Good things for good people. This man Jim knows. Take a good look at him. He's been through it.
This is Vivian McPeak at Seattle Hempfest here at Myrtle Edwards Park. I'm with THC TV and Seattle Hempfest, and we just had Woody Harrelson speak. He's enjoying some munchies now and some refreshments. We've got the herbivores, our house band playing. We've got so many people out there, I don't know how to count them.
Hey, Mr. Politician, time to wake up.
I'm standing here at Hempfest in Seattle with Keith Straub, the founder of Normal. Thank you for that. And what do you think of this event?
It's my favorite event of the year. I travel around and do a number of these kinds of things, but there's nothing on the scale of the Seattle Hempfest other than the Seattle Hempfest. So for those who haven't seen it, it is incredibly empowering. And I think 12, 13 years now I've been coming in. I find it fascinating, and I think people in other parts of the country are beginning to pick up on that same phenomena. And the Boston Freedom Fest is coming up in the month, and that's a wonderful thing on the Boston Common with all the history associated with that. And in the Portland Hemp Sock, and that's about the middle of next month as well. I was there last year.
So 12th and 13th of September.
12th and 13th of September. If you're in the region at all and you identify with marijuana smokers or as marijuana smoking, for Christ's sake, come to this thing. You will find lots of people that are like-minded individuals like you. And as I say, you'll feel empowered by it.
This is peace, love, and understanding that we're doing here. Peace, love, and understanding.
Save your seeds. It doesn't take a miracle to cultivate the weeds.
You can't sell brownies, you can't sell pot, you can't sell Rice Krispies at Hempfest. Why? Because we know how to keep this thing going, and that will bring us down. We have an unprecedented amount of freedom here. No other city in the world, no other rally in America especially. I don't think any in the world is doing quite what we're doing. So
So please understand, we do not want to be the narcs, man.
We arrested our 20 millionth American on marijuana charges. Are you ready for 420? In the midsummer, the state of California determined that it would be missing $1.4 billion in taxes if we didn't legalize it in California. Probably 10 times that many nationally.
We've helped almost 100,000 people in 8 states, get a medical marijuana permit. So that means they can legally possess, use, and grow medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is a great step forward, but it's not the end. What we need to do is end adult marijuana prohibition, restore industrial hemp, and help medical marijuana patients.
The man that started it all, Jack Miller.
Hemp will be the future of all mankind, or there won't be a future.
Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, we're going to legalize marijuana no matter what happens in 10 years, because when 60% of the American public wants something, they're going to get it.
Contact your legislators. Tell them end marijuana prohibition. It's time to tax and regulate it. The more letters they get like that, the sooner the day will arrive.
We're going to legalize marijuana!
Peaceful. Look at this. It doesn't have any. What if this was a drink fest, alcohol fest, meth fest, heroin fest, cocaine fest? There'd be dead people here. There'd be fights. There'd be stabbings. But it's pot fest. It's hemp fest. We are proud. We are loud. Give me thanks.
E-M-P! What do we want?
I freaking love Hempfest. Hempfest is the shit.
Hempfest is badass.
Go Hempfest!
September 12th and 13th, Fort Lane, Kelly Point Park. Yay, please come. Everybody's welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hempfest, yeah. Well, I'm a travel writer. And for me, High is a place. It's a great place. It's a place where I can cook well. My speakers sound better. It's a place where conversations slither around like stray cats. Sometimes I want to go to that place, and a lot of people do. And our government says we can't go there. And today, 80,000 Americans who wanted to go to that place and went there are in jail in our country. Now, there are scenarios where I think it's okay for our government to say you can't go there. But there better be a good reason when my government says I can't go somewhere. And when it comes to getting high, I don't think there's a good reason for our government to say no. I believe that the mature, responsible, adult, recreational use of marijuana is a civil liberty. It is a civil liberty. Now, it's a drug. It's a drug, and I'm not promoting it. I acknowledge it's not healthy. It can be abused. It can be addictive. It's not for kids, and if you drive intoxicated by anything, they should throw the book at you. Yeah. But that doesn't get in the way from the principle that enjoying marijuana is a civil liberty. That's something we need to communicate to our society. Now, our government is waging a war against marijuana, a perpetual, never-ending, losing, expensive, demoralizing to our police force, eroding credibility to our teachers and parents. War on marijuana. It's a war based on lies. It's a war that costs our society billions of dollars every year, and it's a war that messes up hundreds of thousands of American lives every year. This year alone, 800,000 Americans were arrested for enjoying marijuana. They've got a criminal record now. Now, I bring a European perspective to the discussion. I've spent a third of my life hanging out in Europe with people who think marijuana is about exciting as a can of beer. It's just not a big deal. Now, when you think about the European approach to drug problems, and they've got drug problems just like we've got drug problems, they measure their drug problems or the success of their policies on drugs not by how many people do you lock up, but they measure it based on a concept called harm reduction. This is a radical difference between our and their approach to drug abuse and drug problems. In Europe, they want to take the crime out of the equation and consider it a health problem and an education challenge. And my European friends tell me time and time again that a society has to make a choice: tolerate alternative lifestyles or build more prisons. And then they always needle me with that annoying little comment that, and in your country, the United States of America, you lock up more people than anybody else in the world.
Wow.
We lock up 8 times as many people per capita as Europeans do.
Wow.
Either we're inherently more criminal, or there's something screwy about our laws. And most of those people in our jails are in there on drug charges. Now, what shapes American policy on drugs? Fear. Fear is a huge thing in our society, and it's a big part of this war on drugs. Generations of reefer madness propaganda and lies have been designed to make people who have not paid very careful attention to this issue simply afraid of it. There's a lot of Americans who think there's a whole reservoir of people who would just love to ruin their lives with drug abuse if only it was legal. Now in Portugal, they legalized consumption of all drugs 10 years ago, and you know what they learned? More people don't use drugs. It's just no longer a crime. That's a pretty big revelation. A lot of Americans think that marijuana is a gateway drug. A couple of tokes and all of a sudden you're a heroin addict. Well, in the Netherlands, it's been 25 years since they've arrested anybody for smoking pot, and they've got a track record. They care about it as much as we do. And they've found that not many more people smoke marijuana, and not any more people are into hard drugs, and their hard drug taking population is aging. It's a successful thing when you take the crime out of the marijuana. Now, if marijuana is a gateway drug, it's only a gateway drug because it's illegal, because that means there's criminals on the street with a vested interest in getting you into marijuana so you can get into more profitable, more expensive, and more addictive drugs. The only thing gateway about marijuana is its illegality. Now, the United States is out of sync with the world, and we need to wake America up and tell them that there is a harm reduction approach to drug abuse that is more effective and pragmatic than locking people up. Hempfest is a wonderful celebration of cannabis culture, but I'll tell you, we're never going to legalize things unless you guys mobilize. This is a great party, it's a lot of fun, but you got to go out there and make it not scary, and you got to get the truth through to people in the suburbs who are scared to death about this.
All right.
It's not scary. Now, we need to support advocacy groups with our money so they can wage our battle for us. I'm a board member of NORML. There's a lot of good groups. For 10 years I've been a board member of NORML, and I'll tell you, those advocacy groups that are fighting against the drug war in our country are not charities, they're services, and they're fighting your battle, and they're waging a courageous and dogged struggle in our state house and in our national government. We need to support them. We're at a crossroads right now in our society, just like we were in the 1930s when we were taking down the laws against alcohol. And courageous people are starting to speak out now, and it's an exciting opportunity. Mayor LaGuardia of New York in the 1930s said that if a society has a law on the books that it does not intend to enforce consistently across the board, the very existence of that law corrodes law enforcement and respect of the law in general in a society. That's a serious problem. We've got that today. There's no intentions of enforcing our marijuana laws. They're not going to lock up all of us. If they did that, tomorrow Seattle would be a much less interesting city. I'm a hardworking, kid-raising, church-going, tax-paying citizen of the United States of America, and if I work all day and want to go home and enjoy a joint, that's my civil liberty. This is not hard on drugs, it's not soft on drugs. I'm just trying to inject a little bit of European common sense and pragmatism. We need to see drugs as a health problem, not a criminal issue. And then we can move beyond hard on drugs and soft on drugs. We can be smart on drugs, all right? Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here. Have fun and happy travels, even if you're just staying home, okay? Have fun.
Thank you, Rick Steve. Associate publisher of High Times Magazine, the longest running magazine ever to talk about our freedom. Give it up to my brother Rick Cusick.
Thank you, Vivian, my hero. How is everybody today?
We're not stripping the kids.
I said, how is everybody today? My name is Rick Cusick. I am the associate publisher of High Times Magazine. Thank you. The #1 marijuana magazine in the whole world. You are the people at the 19th annual Seattle Hempfest, the #1 marijuana event in the whole world. Soup and a sandwich, baby, right here. The Seattle Hempfest has been going on for 19 years, and the Seattle Hempfest has been protecting our freedom, my freedom and your freedom for 19 years. It is my honor to come here every year and talk to you. When I hear about the Seattle Hempfest, I say to myself, well, what's the Seattle Hempfest about? Some people would say the Seattle Hempfest is about marijuana. Some people would say the Seattle Hempfest is about medicine. Some people would say the Seattle Hempfest is about hemp. Hemp, the #1 food, fuel, and fiber in the world, preferred by my good friend, Jack Herrera. Some people would say that's what we're here for today, but you know something? When I think of the Seattle Hempfest, that's not the first word. I don't think about marijuana, I don't think about hemp, I don't think about medicine. I think about those things, but not first. The very first thing I think about is the word freedom. Freedom! Can you say it with me? Freedom! Freedom! One more time, 1, 2, 3. Freedom! That's right, that is the sweetest word in the world. And that is what the Seattle Hempfest is about. You might say, no, it's about weed. No. You might say, no, it's about medicine, it's about hemp. But I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove it to you with numbers the same way it was proven to me. I'll give you a number. 100 million Americans, out of 300 million Americans, 100 million Americans have smoked marijuana at some time in their lives. And every year in the United States, 25 million Americans smoke it at least once a year. And every month in the United States, at least 15 million Americans smoke it once a month. And 4 million plus Americans smoke marijuana every single day. Am I to take that? There's a few of you guys out there, yeah? Every single day. Now let me tell you another set of numbers. Another set of numbers that gives that first set of numbers meaning. Over 800,000 Americans every year are arrested for marijuana. Damn. Over 600,000 Americans every year are arrested for simple possession. No weight, no selling, just a little head stash that they want to get high on. 600,000 plus Americans. Let me ask you this. Anybody out there 25 years or under 25 years old?
Unless I wish I was under 25 years old. But let me tell you something. 400,000 Americans, almost 450,000 Americans, every year who are arrested in this country are under 25 years old. Make no mistake, the war against marijuana is a war against young people. Most of the people who are arrested in this country are under 25 years old. And that's not by accident. They target young people. When you are young, when you are under 25 years old, you have the opportunity to express freedom like you never will again in your life. You have the freedom to explore. You have the freedom to find out the things you love, the freedom to find out the things you hate. When you're under 25, the world is your oyster. It used to be mine. I'm 56 years old. And I'm looking back, man, I had spent 39 years of my life smoking marijuana every day. But I am no longer 25 years old and under. I am looking at the ones right now who screamed when I said, are you under 25? I am looking at the ones that the war on marijuana is waged against. And I am telling you that this moment right now in your life is the moment of your greatest freedom. It is the moment when you must express your demand for your freedom now. And I'm telling you, you look at these old eyes, my young friends, I am telling you that if you do it now, if you get off your ass and you make sure that they legalize marijuana now in your life, when there's a greater moment now than there's ever been, you will never forget it. This is the moment of freedom. This is the generation. I'm looking at it. Right out here, I'm looking at it. You are the generation that will legalize marijuana in your lifetime. My generation dropped that ball. My generation, we thought back in the 1970s, we're going to have this shit legalized by 1975. That didn't work. 1979, that didn't work. 1985, that did. On and on. Good people my age kept that ball in the air. 19 years they've been doing it here in Seattle. And now, at this moment in time, at 2010, we have 14 states in this country that have some form of legal marijuana medicine. 14 states that have medical marijuana laws. We have California this year that is going to vote on the legalization of marijuana. So what you gotta do is get out and vote. What you gotta do is tell your mother, tell your father, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell everybody you know that this is the moment that you must legalize marijuana. That this is the moment you get off your ass and you do what we didn't do. I am honored to be looking at the generation that is going to legalize marijuana. Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? One more time, give me that magic word. On the count of three, I want to hear the word freedom. 1, 2, 3. My name is Rick Cusick. I am the associate publisher of High Times Magazine. I thank you very much for giving me your time.
Thanks, Rick. Rick will be back emceeing here in a little while. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you right now a champion of truth and liberty. I think one of the most honest politicians we've had in my lifetime. U.S. Congressman Dennis Kucinich is here to speak to you. Let's hear a warm welcome. Give your love to Dennis Kucinich. Hello, Seattle!
On this day, in this place of great beauty, we celebrate the beauty of nature, and I'm also here to celebrate the wondrous nature of you. The presence that we have here today binds us as a community. It empowers us. It strengthens us. We must become visible en masse if we're going to bring about the change that we want in the society. And when we do that, we extend our reach. We bring about new possibilities. And the creative spark that births action can usher in a new world. We have to say to America, open up, America. Show yourself. Time for mass action. This is why and how recent movements for freedom in Tunisia and Egypt gained momentum. This is how Gandhi cast off the British Empire. This is how America's suffragettes ended up getting for women the right to vote. This is how Dr. Martin Luther King's March on Washington became a pivotal moment in the civil rights history of this country. People become visible. They go to the streets. They linked arms. They marched. They sang, "We shall overcome." They walked the uplit path of social and economic justice. People have been on this path, and it's time for us to begin to walk that path too. People then marched to glory, but not for themselves, but for the benefit of generations to come. We gather here today in a common determination for change. A sense of commonality of purpose awakens. A purpose, a sense of awareness grows. The moment arrives to exercise a new commitment, to cast off an old order of things. This same awareness brought America's founders to write the Declaration of Independence and to proclaim a new order follows. Today it is not a financial deficit that will bring America down. It is a deficit of public action. When people discover what happens when one person determines to make a difference and then merges with the many like-minded and becomes visible, new possibilities unfold and a new order follows. Now, Seattle, you understand this because in 1999, Seattle hosted the World Trade Organization rallies, and Seattle was the host of the Teamsters and the Turtles marching arm in arm, not too far from this area, demanding once and for all that we have enforceable workers' rights, human rights, environmental quality principles in all of our trade agreements. They marched and they chanted and they said, not only we shall overcome, but solidarity forever, solidarity for workers. The Seattle WTO cast light upon the workings of the WTO. Seattleites, union members, trade activists helped spark a worldwide awareness, that workers had to have rights and that there had to be environmental quality principles. And it was the people of Seattle who identified that child labor, slave labor, and prison labor had to be in trade, that prohibitions on that had to be in trade agreements. Seattle brought that forward. You kept that alive. You've nurtured it. Large, intentional gatherings like this one can be a catalyst for powerful change. But we have to be prepared, as George Bernard Shaw once wrote, to dream things that never were and ask why not. And let us dream about the America that we want. Let us give our dreams some firmament. Let our dreams and our thoughts become words. Let the words become deeds. Let our deeds become action. Let our actions build a new America and a new world. Seattle, you shook the world once. Can you shake it again? I ask you. Are you ready here, Seattle, to declare once and for all that it's time for America to end the wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and Libya? Are you ready to do that? Are you prepared to demand that our troops be brought home? Are you prepared to demand that America end its worldwide military presence? Are you prepared to demand that America must lead the way to nuclear abolition? Are you prepared, Seattle, to demand that we have to repeal the Patriot Act? Are you prepared, Seattle, to demand that government spying, eavesdropping, and wiretapping of law-abiding citizens must end? That our sisters' right to privacy be protected and decisions about women's reproductive health be made between a woman and her doctor? Are you prepared, Seattle, to say that our brothers and sisters who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered have all full rights, including the right to marry? Are you prepared, Seattle, to demand the decriminalization and legalization of marijuana and demand hospitalization, not incarceration, for those with drug problems? Are you prepared to demand not-for-profit health care for all? Education for all? Retirement security for all? Jobs for all? Are you prepared to rescue our federal government from corporate interests by calling for a constitutional amendment which establishes only public financing of federal elections? Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared to summon the energy to rescue our planet, to protect our air, our water, and our land from further exploitation by demanding an end to drilling the earth, fracking the earth, cracking the earth, and an end to the poisoning of our seas and our skies, and to make sure that we end this carbon-based solution and bring forward a rapid transition to an environmentally friendly, socially responsible, green economy. Seattle, this day, here and now, you, through your responses, have voiced what I would call the Seattle Declaration. Let the sound of your voice today be heard wide and far. Let your affirmations give birth to new actions, a new nation, and a new world. Let your voice once again cause America to march. Let your voice once again cause America to sing. Let your voice cause America to seek new freedoms. Let your voice call America to seek a newer world. Ours is a restless quest for freedom. We know wars make us less free. We know fear makes us less free. Social and economic insecurity makes us less free. If it is for freedom's sake that we gather, so then let us be for freedom's sake that we act courageously. Because it is our desire for change that carries extraordinary power to become more than we are, better than we are. Forged in the human heart, ignited by love and a passion for transformation, our common unity, our common purpose, and our common action can carry the power to change everything. This is the power of human unity. This is the power of our oneness. Feel it. Own it. Act upon it, Seattle. Thank you.
U.S. Congressman Dennis Kucinich, give a hand.
Latino, pues. Okay. All right, we got some here. Well, here's the deal, you know. Here we are in Seattle, in Washington, you know, we have 17 states, 17 medical states in America, the United States anyway, this part of America, that are medical states. But what I'm here to talk about is the rest of the world. There's so much going on everywhere else, not just America. And the one thing we all got in common with all those guys everywhere else in the world is we love one thing, cannabis. Cannabis, yeah, cannabis. And we got one goal between us all, and that is to make cannabis legal. Let cannabis be free, and that's it. That's what brings us all together. Because, for example, in Spain, where I live most of the time, you can have 4 plants, 6 plants, whatever. It's not really secure exactly the number of plants you can, but it's written into the Constitution that you can grow cannabis. I think that's a good thing. You know, that's why I live there. Okay, and then in Austria, you know, Austria, where Vienna is, you know, you think that one little country in the middle of nowhere out up next to Hungary? Well, you can grow clones there. I mean, one of my good friends grows 10,000 clones a week, and he's got one of the many clone stores there. Yeah, 100% legal, 100% legal. And in Switzerland, things were going 100% legal to grow cannabis. God, for years. We used to grow fields, literally fields, 10 acres. They call them hectareas there. But, you know, for about a period of about 10 years. But now it's completely legal to grow 4 plants in Switzerland. So they kind of went backwards. But, you know, I'm just talking about serious legal growing. And then the Czech Republic, remember it used to be Czechoslovakia, and part of it was Czech Republic? It's legal to grow there too. And by the way, cannabis is decriminalized. Israel, any Jewish people here? Any Israelis? Yeah, okay. This is good. Israel is one of the best places for growing medical cannabis in the world. Israel, and you wouldn't think of it. Of course, we all know that Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, a Jewish fellow, Israeli, he was the one that discovered THC, and he also discovered the cannabinoid receptors. In Russia, my first book is now coming out in Russia. It's on the boat right now, coming from China to America so we can ship it to Russia. Anyway, it's still illegal in Russia, but they're growing all over the place. Argentina, this winter I go to Argentina, I go to Chile, Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil. And all three of those, well, everywhere but Brazil, cannabis is legal, it's decriminalized. You can have up to 20 grams, that's 2/3 of an ounce. So, and then even in Mexico, where I went to school, it's you can have 5 grams legal. So the one thing we got all in common is this cannabis, and these guys in the other countries have done a better job of legalization than we have. And we're leaders here in America. We've already shown, I don't know if any of you guys ever see my 10-pound plant video. It's on YouTube. Just type in Jorge Cervantes in YouTube. You see that? You see this big video of 10-pound plants. We already teach everybody how to grow 10-pound plants. And so they're looking for some leadership from us. We've got to make cannabis legal in America, in the United States. And that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you guys for watching. We're going to go out on another great song by Mr. John Coronet. We'll be back next week and help us restore hemp.
Yeah, restore hemp.
Another chapter as we turn the page. We exist within a Ukraine. I know that freedom's heard around the globe. Just where our future lies where nobody knows. Oh, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when the sky will fall. Maybe the moon will reach the earth one day. We're not the same race that we used to be. Can't you see? Now the next time that you fall in